Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and in studio with me today is a phenomenal woman that I've had the pleasure of knowing for a number of years. She is my sister in Christ. She's a mom, she's a wife, and as I said, she's a woman of God. Just a pleasure to know, pleasure to be around, and she's taking time out of her very busy schedule to hang out with us for a little while to share a bit of her journey, a bit of her story with the hopes of inspiring and encouraging and uplifting others, particularly as it comes to dealing with challenging times and adverse moments because we all deal with them. So it is my privilege, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce to you Miss Cheryl Squalls. Cheryl, thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Hey, I find it a just nothing but a blessing and an honor to be on your show. I've watched your show, I've read your book, and I just think it's an honor that you asked me to be a special guest on your show. I was like, me? Okay, all right, let's do it.
Well, I am equally honored that you accepted the invite. I'm glad to have you aboard, and I know we're all going to be blessed with whatever it is that you have to share with us. So we're just trusting that God is going to lead you accordingly and just drop us some gems and some nuggets. So I'm excited. I know my audience is excited. So with that being said, let's jump into it. But before we get into our segments, I do want to, of course, give you an opportunity to share a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, what you do. Kind of give them a taste of who is Cheryl Squalls.
Well, first of all, I am a woman of God, so I want to make that clear right up front. Everything I do, everything I say, whatever I think all day long is always I have that mind on Christ. So that's first and foremost as to who I am. Next, I'm a wife. I've been a wife, married to my handsome husband for 24 years. So next year, March, we will be celebrating 25 years. So I am really excited about that. I can't believe that it's been that long, actually. We have three children. We have a daughter, Chloe. She's our oldest. We have Miles and Desmond. They're our two youngest kids. And what I do for a living, I have been in insurance claims for almost 30 years. I will celebrate my 30th year with the same insurance company next February, February 15th. So I'll be celebrating 30 years with my current insurance company. And I'm a leader, and I'm a friend. I'm a daughter. I take care of my mom. Well, she takes care of me. She lives with me and she takes care of me and mine still. But yeah, just a pleasure to have her, in our home and just watching over my entire family every day. So that's who I am.
That's
That's who I
awesome.
am.
That's awesome. And of course for our viewers who don't know, Cheryl and I are from the same hometown as well as her husband. We all from Chicago. So if you can't see
Hmm.
the picture in the background, the skyline, representing Chicago on the podcast this evening. So I'm excited about that. And that's an interesting, quick little interesting fun fact. We found out earlier, sometime last year, that your husband and I literally grew up only a couple of blocks away from each other and had no idea of
Hmm.
that happening. So just a small world. Here we are in Texas, and
Hmm.
to find out that somebody that you've been going to church with and known for some time, that they actually grew up basically right around the corner from you. So again, small world, but again, I'm glad that we're hanging out and connected, as friends and as brothers and sisters in Christ, and again, just excited about tonight. So. I'm not
Yes,
gonna
me
hold
too.
it. I'm not gonna hold anybody in suspense any longer. We're gonna jump right into this. So, Cheryl, I'm a firm believer that, when it comes to our stories, our journeys, you really can't capture the full essence of it unless you go back to the where it all begins, that whole foundational basis of where that journey starts. And so that's exactly what we're going to do right now. So if you would, as you reflect back growing up in Chicago, we're familiar with South Side for those who might be familiar with that, but everybody that's checking in may not know about what that life is like, what it is to grow up in a big city like Chicago. But if you would, us back and carry us through that time period for you, fond memories that you have about growing up, as well as if there was any particular challenges that come to mind about growing up. Just kind of give us that starting point of where your journey begins.
Woo. You loaded it right away. You loaded right in on that. Um, as you said, I'm from Chicago, South Side. Um, I grew up with a single mother, and there were five of us, and I'm number four.
Mm.
So I'm one of the babies. Now, I'm actually considered kind of like the baby because my little brother was always bigger than me and thought he was always older than me. So everybody considered me kind of like the baby, even though he's the baby. But yeah, we grew up with a mother that just was phenomenal. Just, I stand on the shoulders of my mother. I stand on the shoulders of her mother, who were, both phenomenal women. And I couldn't tell my story without going back to talk about, them and their influence in my life. So we grew up in Chicago, and as I said, my mom was a single mom. My dad actually, decided that there was somebody else, I guess, that was more interested, and somehow he ended up with another family. They moved, to Louisiana. We never saw him again. So when I say that she was a single mother, she was literally a single mother, no help financially, didn't know where to even start looking for, my father. Um, but, my mother was a go-getter. And what she did was she worked, I remember her working in City Hall, doing some office job down there. She was real smart, was the valedictorian of her class in high school, but she was working for the city, a city hall downtown Chicago. But then she also had a part-time job at Walgreens, and it was rare that we saw my mom. I can say that. Um, she was gone before I got up, and she was not back yet when I went to bed at night. So my brothers and sisters, we kind of helped raise one another. We watched out for one another. If one of us was, I mean, we all had some strengths that we played on, and I could cook, and maybe somebody else can do something else, and we kind of just watched out for one another. And my oldest brother, he's the oldest of the five of us. I'm really grateful that he was there, and I looked upon him as a father figure, like how most people look, toward their fathers for protection and for advice and to run to if things wasn't, right. I had him. He was about 6 years older than me, so that was quite a age difference there. So I just thought that he was the strongest, smartest, you know, uh, man, alive. So I did have him. But yeah, it was that was my childhood. We went to school. We came home. My mother, had us all call, and the minute we got in the door, and she kind of checked in, where's such and such, where's such, okay, put him on the phone because she didn't trust that maybe we were covering for one another. She's like, let me speak to him. She heard our voice, and she would ask us how our day was and everything, and she kind of kept her, kept her kept us close to her, that way. And then in the summertime, when we weren't in school, she would send us to Mississippi, and we would spend the entire summers in Mississippi with my grandparents on the land that she grew up on, and on the land that my grandmother grew up on as a little child. So we would play with all our cousins that lived on the land, and the weekend before school started, you know, my mom would come back and get us, and we would start school that Tuesday after Labor Day. So that
Mm.
literally we did that every year. And that's how I was able um to get a lot of wisdom from my grandmother. Um she was just so awesome. She was she had 9 children of her own, and out of the 9 children, I think five of them are pastors, and just a godly woman that just always talked about the Bible and gave us such nuggets of wisdom, and my grandmother was phenomenal, you know. She was great. So I got the best of both worlds. Now, I
That's
will
really
say
cool.
this. I will say this. It was tough times because we didn't have a lot of money. I would say if there was any challenge to really point out, that probably would be that we were on the lower economic scale. Okay, we lived in the hood, if you want to, if you want to call it that, because I grew up in Inglewood. Anybody know about Chicago? They know Inglewood. Especially back in the day. I don't know how it is now, but back in the day, it was a little bit rough. But we my mom kept us safe somehow. We stayed in the church. Everything, our whole social being, everything was wrapped around the church. So we were at church, all day on Sundays, all day Saturdays, because we had youth choir rehearsal at 2 o'clock. They put it in the middle of the day, so you really couldn't get into anything before choir rehearsal. And then after choir rehearsal, every Saturday was some type of event. They took us to the movies, or they had some movies there, or something they had, for us to keep us off the streets. So just I just have just the fondest memories of, growing up in Chicago. And although we were poor, I never knew I was, people always say we're poor, but we happy, and it sounds like someone has put, some ideas in your head that, poor is good or whatever the case is. But, we were poor. We didn't have, but we were happy. You know what I mean, Joseph? We
Mhm.
had a really loving home. Our mother was awesome. She was loving. She showed us what hard work was. And she somehow um, made enough money to move us out of that neighborhood. And then we moved like around the hundreds. Like I grew up,
Mhm.
in the hundreds. And she moved us out of there into a much better environment. Wasn't Peel Hill, but it was a much better environment than where we were currently living in Inglewood. So um, just beautiful, two-story building. Um, and we just continued to live our lives and do what we needed to do, and that was my childhood, and I can say this. So my mom, even though she didn't have a lot of time, I have a lot of fond memories of my mother just trying to make life, happy for us. And one of the things that she would do, and this I didn't realize what she was doing, but she was really building a dream in us. She would get us, take us in a car. Sometimes she had a car, sometimes she didn't have a car. But when she did have a car, she would pack us up in that car, and she'd buy a big bag of potato chips, maybe like a 2 liter, bottle of pop, maybe some Kool-Aid. I can't remember. And we would take our little mayonnaise jars in that car. And we would pour our drinks in that car, eat our chips and everything. And she would take us in, quote unquote, the white people's neighborhood and drive us around. And she would tell us, one day y'all all gonna live like this. And that, it was fun for us. We were amazed. We got out of our neighborhood and saw that there was, other neighborhoods that were different than ours, homes that were different than ours, streets that were different than our streets, tree-lined streets and all of that. And not knowing what she was doing back then, but she was really building a dream in us. And, we're all living like that now. Yes,
Hmm.
sir. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep, we're
Wow.
all living like that, just like she told us we would.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Just hearing your whole story, of course, obviously, I appreciate your transparency and sharing what it was like, because like you said, not only do people, there may be people who check out our episode and they're not familiar with the Chicago area, but definitely not familiar with Inglewood. That was definitely a rough area, a rough patch to be in growing up. But and I have lots of friends who grew up in the Inglewood area, but the difference, and you spoke to that, the difference was, while money might have not been in abundance, while, you may not have had all of the things that you might have desired to have, what you did have was, which was the most important thing to have, was the love,
Mm-hmm.
was the family support. I'm hearing you about, my mom is working all the time and she's trying to provide, she's making sacrifices. So the brothers and sisters kind of taking care of each other. So, you kind of have the whole latch go, and, and I remember as you were reflecting back on that about coming home and, and checking in, on the
Mm-hmm.
phone, making sure that you got in
Oh yeah.
okay. And, that was just a normal thing that we did.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the best thing that could be done under those circumstances. Because,
Yeah.
if you didn't have a lot of money, especially if you're coming up in a single parent household, they couldn't send you to, have a daycare to go to,
Mm-hmm.
or, after school programs and things like that. So we had to do what we had. And, but again, because of that family, because of that community, and then of course you add the church element to it, it makes all the difference in the world. So the things that you think matter don't matter, and the stuff that matters the most, you're not missing out on, because, at
Right.
the end of the day, I don't know a person who doesn't, particularly a kid growing up, who doesn't want that love and that support more than the gifts and the presents. I mean, those are cool things, but
Yeah.
if you have it, and then there's that emptiness, there's that void of not having, people who love you, people who want the
Mm-hmm.
best for you, even to you talking about visiting the neighborhoods. And that's just the beauty of how God works. It's like, you don't know why you're in the situation you're in and what you're going through. It doesn't make sense. It's just, at that time, we just kids hanging out in the car going for a ride. But as you said, God was working through your mom
Hmm.
to plant seeds to say, if you can have
The
an
whole big
appreciation
world out there.
for what you have right now, and you can see what the possibilities are. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
introducing you to these nuggets at an early age, and it resonated with you and your siblings as you got older, and now you're all individually living lives of you know of abundance, of some of that dream that your mom placed in you. And so again, and I remember doing similar things like that, mom driving through, certain neighborhoods, and, oh, look at that. And and it was to see, because like you said, it places those thoughts in your head that maybe someday that could be me, you know. So
Well,
just
my mom,
that's
she
just,
told us that too. She
yeah.
told us we were all gonna live like that. She told us, she said, y'all gonna all live like this one day. And she told us that we were all going to college. I didn't even know what college was. Really, to be honest with you, I didn't even know what that was. But it was a place that she said, y'all gonna go there. And it wasn't
Mhm.
until later, my latter years, and when I got into, high school and all of that, that I found out what college was. And but she, told us that we were all gonna go to college, and she told us that we were going to play a sport or we were going to play an instrument. Most of us played an instrument and a sport, and it kind of kept us, you know, out of
Yeah.
trouble. It kept us going. You were around coaches and directors all the time, people that she knew would be pouring into us, along with
Hmm.
the times when she wasn't there to really push. So I mean, just really a phenomenal woman. She herself wasn't formally educated beyond high school, um but she knew the value of education, and she knew the value of keeping us involved in activities where we would be around people that would help us to grow while she was out working and trying to make a living.
Yeah, and that's so important. I even love the fact that you pointed out about your oldest brother, kind of in his own way. And I don't even know if he realized the role that he was stepping into, whether it would be unofficially, it was that father figure, because that especially resonates with me now. I mean, I grew up obviously in a single parent home, but, and I know the impacts of, as a son, not having his dad around, but it hits a little different. I feel like, when you start talking about a daughter, now being a father of a daughter, and I can't, me personally, not being able to imagine not being in my daughter's life. And so, I was feeling that as you were telling that story. And it was like, at the same time, God said, you know what? Yeah, your biological dad's not physically in the home, but I'm gonna help fill that void between your older brother, serving that sort of that role model, if you will, as well as the things that your mom was doing, surrounding you all with people, both men and women, who were positive role models, who could pour into you, who could, drop those nuggets, if you will, inside of you to give you that hope and belief that things can be better and that they will be better. That you could too experience, a good, an abundant life. You could too experience, the nice things of the world, the experiences of the world, whatever they may be. So, um, that's the testament to your mom, to many moms of our day back then that functioned like that.
That's
That
right.
that was just the culture
Yeah,
then
it sure
of the
was.
single mother,
Hmm.
particularly the single black mother at that time. That was the story for many of them.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we value them and appreciate them so much as we reflect back. And and like I said, it didn't make sense. We didn't have all the pieces together when we were kids thinking about it, but you get older and you start reflecting and having moments like this, and you're like, you know what? Now that makes sense why she did what
Hmm.
she did. Now that makes sense why
Hmm.
maybe they were fooling us, and and no, they were trying to prepare you. They were
Hmm.
trying to position you, and then again, you throw in the God element, which of course is the most element of it all, and then that just caps it all off and leads you down that pathway of again, of staying out of the trouble, staying out of the mess, and putting yourself in the best position possible to be the greatness that God created you to be. So
Yes. Yeah.
that's beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful
Summed it
stuff.
up very
And
well. Yeah.
yeah, I just love hearing those stories because, like I said, you just puts a smile on your face and makes you think back to all those good times. So,
Hmm.
that's good stuff. So Cheryl, again, we have our growing up as you shared, and we venture off into adulthood, and life experiences begin to broaden, different challenges begin to cross our paths, different experiences that we've never encountered before come our way, because that's just the thing about life. There are going to be the good times, but then there's also going to be those moments that come, and you live long enough, there are going to even come some times that hit, um, at a certain level to where you might question, like, man, this is definitely more than what I'm accustomed to dealing with. This is not the norm. I may even have some doubts, some concerns as to whether or not I'm going to be able to overcome some of these challenging things that are happening to me, especially if they happen in your younger years, where you're just starting to figure out adulthood and what it means to be out on your own. So, said, if you would tell us about a time where you found yourself in a challenging situation that hit a little different. The weight, the burden of it all was a little bit heavier than the normal day to day stuff that we deal with. Something that maybe you question, even with your faith being what it is, being a woman of God that you are, being mature and intelligent, and all of those good things, all of those good traits. Even the best of us, you know, have those concerns and worries and fears sometimes. Like, how am I going to get out of this? So if you would share with us again a time where you were in that kind of situation, kind of walk us through what that story was like for you and what was ultimately the turning point that helped you to be able to sort of see the light at the end of the tunnel as you were coming up out of that situation of adversity at that point in time in your life.
Perfect. Perfect. So I got to go back again. It's
Hmm.
all starting back in Chicago. And I just got to go back to my elementary school years and bring you up to current day. And what happened was, um, being a single mom, never saw her. Homework wasn't like probably, one of the biggest things on our list there. So, wasn't no tutors or any of that. I started late, talking. I wasn't a big talker, in my toddler years or what have you. I can't remember the full story, but I do know that I wasn't talking, like I should have been. Um, and when I was in elementary school, I wasn't a good reader. I couldn't spell. I couldn't spell anything. I mean, I would get if and of mixed up like most kids do, but I mean, it was terrible for me. And I was told, you're just thick-headed. That's all. And you know how back in the day, they would just tell you all this stuff, you're just a little thick-headed. That's all, So, I, I couldn't read. I mean, I couldn't read all the way up through fifth and sixth and seventh grade and everything. I just could not read. I couldn't spell. I was always testing 2 and 3 grade levels below where I should be. should have been at the time. And it was just always a struggle. And I always thought that I was dumb. I just always thought I was dumb. Being told that I was thick-headed, to me was being called dumb. And a lot of people told me that, the other students, some of the teachers, whatever family members will say that I was thick-headed and stuff. And so, you kind of you start believing some of the things about yourself. That becomes your truth, right? But what happened was when I was in the eighth grade, they knew that I should not be in the regular class. Now, all along, because, my mom had all these other kids that went through the school and they did okay. And my mom, um, they liked my mom, they liked our family. Um, so they would just pass me on, but I really shouldn't have been passed on. Okay. Got to eighth grade, and instead of them putting me back in seventh grade, what they decided to do was there was a split seventh and eighth grade class, and it was a special ed class. Everybody knew that Miss Wood's class was special ed. And
Mm.
so, I was just glad not to be in there because I knew I should have been in there. Felt like I should, excuse me, that I should have been in there, but I was always in the regular class, struggling. And they decided to put me, after school had started. I had been in the regular eighth grade class for a couple of weeks, and somebody came up with the grand idea that they were going to put me back in Miss Wood's class. Oh my goodness,
Mm.
I was devastated. I mean, I was devastated because I was like, everybody's going to know that I'm dumb and, so forth and so on. Even got my mom to go up to the school and try to, convince them to put me, back in the regular class. But they were like, no, she needs to be in Miss Wood's class. So I get to Miss Wood's class and Miss Lorraine Woods in Chicago. So if anybody, because I've been looking for Miss Lorraine Woods for all of my adult life, I've been looking to I just wanted to tell her, oh, I turned out, but I can't find her. I've called the school. I just can't find her. So if anybody knows her, please get in touch with me and let me know where I can reach her. But what Miss Woods did was, first of all, she gained my trust. And she, would tell me, hey, every day I drink all of this coffee, and I'm going to entrust my special mug to you to clean for me every day, you know. And so she allowed me to go and clean the mug, at around 2 o'clock every day after she finished drinking the coffee, and just gained my trust that way. I didn't know what she was doing then, but I know what she's doing. I can reflect back and see exactly what she did. So, she was telling me that, you're just such a responsible girl. I'm trusting you. And she just started building me up, okay, and telling me all these great things about me. Then she would have me read, and she would, come and do small groups with me and so forth and so on. One day she said, I know what your problem is. You can't read. I was thinking to myself, well, I've been doing that.
Right.
Like, but but not only did she tell me that I couldn't read, but she said, but you can learn to read, and it won't take you long to learn to read. This is what I want you to do. The book fair is going to come next week, and I want you to go and buy some books. And I want you to read those books. And I said, well, Miss Woods, I don't think my mom has any money to buy any books. Now, at that time, Joseph, the books were like 75 cents, $1,
Uh-huh.
whatever. But I didn't think that my mom would even have that money. But she ended up giving me like $1 or something. And then, I was able to choose a book. But Miss Woods also told me, she said, now you go and you choose two books that you want, and I'll give it to you. So I was able to get me three books that day, the two that Miss Woods um, allowed me to have, and the one that my mom allowed me to have. And she showed me, she said, just read And if you don't understand the meaning, she said, just keep on reading. And by the end of the sentence or the end of that paragraph, you will figure out what that word is. And then once you figure out what the word probably is, go look it up in the dictionary. Sound it out. Da da da. So she went and got one of the old blue dictionaries. You remember those old blue dictionaries?
Mm-hmm.
She went and found that old blue dictionary, probably from the second grade somewhere. Went to the second grade class and got it. But she gave me that little elementary book dictionary, told me how to use it and everything. And she just built my confidence up. You know, if I learned a baby word, she was like, "Oh my goodness, that is so great. Oh, see, you know how to read." You know, and she told me, she said, once you learn how to read, you will conquer history and math and everything else. And do you know that that was a turning point for me?
Mm.
And by the end of that eighth grade year, I was reading. Okay. And not only was I reading, but my grades were much better than before. And my confidence level in who I was and what I can achieve was much higher than what all of my school years. I mean, nobody had poured into me, you know, just all the compliments and, you know, the direction and all of that. And so after I graduated eighth grade, my ninth grade year, I was still, you know, trying to struggle a little bit, but by 10th grade, I was all over it. By 11th and 12th grade, I was in all honor classes, and I was on
Mm.
the honor roll, and I was in the honor society, and I graduated high school out of 700 and something, 40 something. I think I was number 42 or something like that, you know, and that was just really a great accomplishment, but it taught me a lot about, you know, how to really pour into people, you know, just pour positive, you know, compliments, and just help them to see the good that they have in them that's already there, you know.
Right.
You may be struggling in something, but if you had a good coach, or, you know, a good, um, you know, mentor that can pour into you, it's like the sky is the limit. You know, the sky's the limit. So from high school, I went to college, and I did okay in college. I finished my undergraduate and got my bachelor's degree. Went to you know, grad school, and I have a master's degree now. And I'm, you know, propelled into, you know, this company that I've been with, and I'm in. It's a Fortune 50 company, and I'm in leadership there. I've been in leadership over there for like 16, 18 years or something, you know, leading
Mm-hmm.
other adults, other people, managing millions of dollars in indemnity payments, and managing lawsuits and dealing with lawyers and things of that nature, all because Miss Woods believed in me, and she helped me to believe in myself, and she helped me see, you know, the things that I had within me that was already there. She just brought it out.
Wow. That is a phenomenal story. Again, your transparency, I certainly appreciate that. And I don't know if you caught it. You know, the title of our show, podcast episode, The Voice We Listen to.
Mm,
And, you know, I think about when you were starting off your story, how you spoke to all of these people who had all of these negative things to say, you know, thick head, and how you took that as, you know, you basically calling me dumb. And, you know, whether it was coming from family, whether it was coming from teachers, whether it's coming from students, you know, and just imagine, had you listened to those voices and allowed those voices to dictate your path versus that voice, in this case, the voice of Miss Woods, who I don't believe that it was just by accident that she was teaching that class. You know, and it certainly wasn't an accident that you were placed in it, because as you stated, originally you had been able to avoid being in that class, but then whatever happens, you get shifted back into that class. And it seems like the most horrible, devastating, traumatizing moment there is. But see, as a woman of God, I know you understand that that's just how God moves. He'll take what's supposed to be the worst situation for you, the demising, the dreadful, if you will, type of circumstances, and he'll place you in that and allow you to be blessed through it. And that's
Mm-hmm.
exactly what happened to you at such a young age, for you to go in the space that you didn't want to be in, the uncomfortable space, the space that I felt like I was going to be teased and looked down upon, ended up being a space and place of blessing for you,
Mm-hmm.
because you had somebody who poured into you just in the right way that you needed to be poured into, that voice that you needed to hear, that was the difference maker, that was a game changer for you to not only overcome your challenges in reading, but then to have a newfound belief in yourself, a newfound courage, if you will, to where now, between what this teacher was doing and you connect that mom was already doing, placing in your head, even though because you couldn't, when she was riding you and your siblings around in the car, you were struggling with reading, but yet she's telling you how you're getting ready to live fabulous. And you see these homes, you're going to live in a home like this. You know that place that's called college? You're going to go there one day. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
telling this to a kid who's struggling in reading. So your
Mm-hmm.
mother saw it, Miss Wood saw it, and we know God saw it, but he
Yeah.
had to take you through that storm to prepare for what lied ahead for you, for the not only academically, but the fact that you would one day be in a leadership position and being able to pour into other people. Some who are going to be very bright, some I'm sure you've come across that have challenges and struggles in whatever way. And they needed that compassionate, empathetic heart that saw the potential, that saw the value in them, that would be able to pour into them and let them know, hey, we didn't hire you in this job because we didn't think you couldn't make it. We saw in you, and I'm getting ready to, as a leader, I'm getting ready to level that thing up and draw out of you everything that they saw in you, the recruiters or the interviewers that saw in you when they brought you on board, to make
Mm-hmm.
you the best version of who you are. And I'm sure
Yes.
in your 16, 18 plus years, you created, just like somebody turned you into a leader, you probably produced other leaders
I,
that that
yes.
have come, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And again, these things, these processes, these happenings are not by accident, luck.
No.
It's not happenstance. This is divinely set up in just this way. But that's the whole essence of our journey. And that's why when we go through these quote unquote storms of life, we have to begin to adjust and change our mindset, and stop looking at storms as being a negative event, but looking at it as a growth opportunity, an
Yeah.
opportunity to build, and an opportunity to develop, an opportunity to stretch ourselves in
Yes.
ways that on our own human we wouldn't do. But when we allow God to tap in, when we allow ourselves to be open to grow, and open
Mm-hmm.
to again to be stretched and to be molded and shaped, then again the possibilities are unlimited. And that's what
Yeah.
you allowed yourself to do. And it's manifesting itself. And I'm sure it's manifested itself as you became a parent and pouring into your own
Mm-hmm.
children, and
Absolutely.
they're finding their way and doing their
Yeah.
thing. All
Yeah.
of that's all a part of the process. And so
Yeah.
it's just a beautiful thing, and to reflect on how God works,
Yeah.
and how he navigates, and he takes what appears from the worldly perspective being an imperfect situation, and he makes it perfect. I
Amen.
mean, yeah, and for my listeners, you got to understand. I mean, Cheryl told you that she's been in the insurance industry, but she hasn't told you that this is a woman who's edited. She's done editing of books. The very books that she couldn't read, she now edits for
Amen.
other people who are
That's right.
writing
Yeah.
books.
Mm-hmm.
Is that an accident? Somebody who couldn't read in eighth grade, grow up in somewhere down the road in life, edit other people's writing.
Yeah. Yeah. When
you know,
I, you know,
how does
when I was in college, I actually, I started out just, helping friends, reading through their papers, making sure that they had all of their punctuation marks and everything in the right place or what have you. And I would rewrite, darn near rewrite their paper so that they were getting A's and all of that. And the word spread, that here was somebody that could help you write these papers. And I started doing that in college. And then People were, I should have been charging, I should have been charging for that, but who knew about
Right,
side
right.
business hustles and stuff. But, back then, I tell you, we all had to help one another just make it. We did what we had to do to help each other make it. And it was like no big deal. It was just something that I could do. I read so many books because I was never without a book in my hand, article, a newspaper, a magazine, something. I was always sitting on my front porch reading something. I was walking
Mm.
down the street reading something. I'm on the bus reading something. If I'm waiting in line, I'm reading something. Um, I just fell in love with reading once I learned how to do so. And it would just, take you into a whole nother world. You learn so much. And, I just developed that kind of mind. And now, I am making money, as an editor. I have a little side editing business. And somebody came and asked me, here's an outline of what I want to say in my book, and here are my thoughts, and just mind dump the thoughts, random thoughts. And I I helped write that book so that it turned into two books. It was volume
Wow.
one and volume two because I rewrote the book and helped her to get her thoughts together, and it turned into actually two volumes of the book. And these things, until just now, I really didn't think about it. But again, coming from somebody that was, dubbed as, couldn't read, that was thick-headed when it came to reading and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm just really grateful for the things that God has done, um, to allow me to um, overcome that challenge and to help other people and use my gift to, help other people graduate or whatever it is, realize their dream by writing books and so forth. Um, I remember once I have a son that the teacher, when he was in fourth grade, we showed up to the parent teacher conference, and she, I was very protective of my kids, for their feelings, their education, their minds, and things of this nature, because I know what that negative talk can do to a child. And I refuse to let that be, something that, my children would go through. So my son was in fourth grade, and he was struggling a little bit, and we were getting tutors for him, and sitting down doing extra work with him and all of that. And we show up to the parent teacher conferences one particular day, and this teacher with my son sitting there just starts going down this path, this, conversation of what my son can't do and what he can't learn and where he's at, and,
Mhm.
so forth. I said, well, just give me a minute. Just give me 1 minute. And I turned to my son and I said, son, do you think that mom is dumb or incapable of learning? No. And I, went through a series of, mom is, boss at work, mom can read, mom's successful, da da da. Yes. I said, I had a teacher, that a couple teachers and a couple people, adults, that told me that I couldn't do something, that I couldn't read, that I couldn't learn, that I couldn't do that. I said, I don't want you to put this in your mind and make this your truth. You are smart, and whatever it is, we're going to overcome it. So I said, so you trust me, right? Yep. And he says, yeah. I said, okay. Well, you're going to make it through life, and you're going to be very successful, just like your mom and just like your dad. And I said, okay, so you can go on, get your book, go on out there and just sit right outside that door right there, and let mom talk to the teacher. And I turned around and I told her, please don't ever tell my son or any other kid that they're, if you want to have this conversation about the things that they're struggling in or whatever, have that with me. You don't have that in front of the kid. And I just told her the story about what Miss Woods did to me, and how she poured into me a belief that I could do better and I could learn, and I started believing what she told me, and that helped propel me for the success that I've had, in my life. And so I just told her, I said, I really don't, I pray that you don't do that to to any other students. Because maybe some other parents didn't have that experience that I had and may not have taken up with their kid and their kid left there feeling defeated, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah. So,
Wow. So you had to teach the teacher how to
mhm,
teach the teacher how to be empathetic, how to teach the teacher how to be encouraging and uplifting. But again, yes, surely you as a mother, you're standing up for your child. But even another layer to that is, had you not gone through what you had gone through,
mhm,
you wouldn't have been able to have the conversation that you had with that teacher. Because the way that that conversation would have went, it would have been more negative. You'd have
right.
been like, I don't know who you think you're talking to, my child, da 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 da. But
Right.
you were able to take a moment of ignorance and use it as an opportunity to empower and inform that teacher on a better approach. Now, whether or not that teacher or not or reflected on it, we you may never know, but at least you know for certain that, you know, through that storm that God took you through, you were able to pour back into somebody. You can't control
Yes.
whether or not they took your advice or
That's
not,
right.
but you were at least able to plant that seed, and
Mhm.
prayerfully that teacher took heed to what you had to say, and not only with your own son, but in future teachings of other children. Maybe that changed their approach. Like, you know what, maybe being, hitting it the right way when it comes
Mhm.
to dealing with, my students that are having some challenges or things like that. So again, not by accident, because you never know how your storms and your challenges and following up on that, the opportunities that are going to be presented to you to be able to come alongside people that need to hear. That's why I say, when it comes to our stories, everybody has a story to tell, and you never
Yeah.
know who needs to hear that story. And in your case, your
Mhm.
story was able to be relevant in that moment in time for your who didn't know what was going on right now, who didn't understand the impact of what this teacher was potentially doing to him. You were able to intercede on his behalf in
Right.
a positive way and change the trajectory. And I'm sure that
Yes.
that's played out well for your son as well as your other kids. And and again, you've been able to pour that into other people in their respective spaces, whether it's I'm bringing you my book that I want to write, or I'm doing something that I need to learn, and I need your support and your encouragement, not your ridicule and your negative comments because I make a mistake or
Right.
what have you. So all of those things matter so much, and I'm just thankful to hear that you have been both gifted and blessed and empowered in that way to be able to pour into other people through what was at the time very difficult times for you. You've been
Right.
able to again bless friends and strangers,
Right. Yeah.
through your experiences. So that's huge, and I know you don't take it lightly, but I would encourage anybody that's listening to it who's have similar moments. Don't take these moments lightly. It's by design. It's intentional. It's for a purpose. And you just have to allow yourself the time and the space and keep an open mind and listen for God's word. Listen to His voice. Allow Him to guide you and direct you. And this is the way that it has to be. Whether you understand it, whether you like it or not, this is how it has to be to get you to where He destined for you to be. So,
Exactly.
um, yes, absolutely. So Cheryl, with that said, we've talked about some challenging things that you've dealt with, of course, but I'm kind of curious, just in general, whether it's something major that's going on, or even if it's just some of the regular day to day or lifing type stuff that we deal with. I'm curious to know, what is the process or routine or regiment that you like to follow when you find yourself up against, adversity or challenging times? Like, what do you like to do that kind of helps you to keep a level head, while at the same time you're trying to just work through whatever that challenge or situation is that you're working through? What is the thing that works best for you that you like to follow?
Well, going to the Lord is really, I don't know how people can get through life without having God in their lives
Mhm.
and in their heart and in their minds and the word, that can, just get you through. And it may sound cliche or whatever the case is, but for me, um, God, actually, I have to depend on Him. I have to depend on Him to get me through. Um, I do work in a very stressful, fast-paced environment. And some days, Joseph, I'm just like at my wit's end. I'm not kidding. It is the phone is ringing off the hook. The attorneys are calling, customers are calling, complaining. The employees got questions. They got issues, something going on, either work, life, whatever. And you just, every day you're wearing so many hats. You're, you're a teacher because, you're teaching, the job to new to role people, people that's under you. You're, a coach. I nobody ever gave me coaching skills, but somehow you have to have those skills. You got to put your attorney hat on one moment, and the next moment you got to talk to, somebody that's not very happy about what they can or can't get from the policy, and they've just lost a loved one in a car accident, you know, and
Mm.
you have to, then come out of that meeting or that conference call, with the attorney thinking on the litigation side and now be um empathetic and sympathetic and soft and that type of thing. So it's a lot of juggling throughout the day that I have to do. Um, and sometimes I get overwhelmed and I get very stressed. And what I do when I do that, Joseph, is I go get my iPad and I plop it on my desk and I turn gospel music on and I listen to gospel music for the rest of the day. As I'm working, I got the gospel music going, the hymns, the gospel music. I got Donnie McClurkin. I got, all types. And sometimes it turns into a praise party right there at my desk. I start, I get in the spirit of it and all of that. So, that's one thing that I do, have is that I have my faith. And, I pray and I ask the Lord, a lot of times how to get through, I'll even say, God, I'm about to go into this litigation call and I don't know the answer to what we need to do to resolve this lawsuit, but I'm asking you to, give me the knowledge and wisdom to get through this call because my employees are looking at me for the wisdom.
Hmm.
The lawyers, they work for us. We tell them this is what we want you to defend us, on, and what do you think? No, I don't think we're going to do that. Even though they went to law school, we know the claim. So, and if you make the wrong decision, sometimes, it's detrimental to the company, the exposure to the company and everything. So, it's very stressful. But again, like I said, I have my faith and I believe that God leads me all day long. And when I'm feeling really down, I play that. Now, the other thing I have, um, is that I have a really God-fearing husband. Okay. And he is so wise. He's real quiet. He doesn't say a lot, but he's got wisdom. Okay. And sometimes, I get so angry with him because I'll just be talking and going on about, how this and that and the other. And he'll just ask me one question. Well, what about, and it'll be something simple. He'll just ask me a simple question. And I hate to say this, but sometimes I'd be like, "Do you hear what I'm saying? It's stressful. Like what? I'm not thinking about that." He said, "Well, I'm just asking you, So, but that one little nugget of something that he will say will help me to reflect on it. Sometimes, he can talk through it with me. Seeing that he's also in insurance, he used to work for my same company as well, so he kind of knows the challenges there. He knows the culture of my company. Um, and so he's still in insurance in a different, he's selling it now. He's on the sales side and versus the claim side and the operational side, and they're all. But he's wise, and he will help me sometimes to figure out, things that I'm going through and help me talk, at least be a sounding board. And then I have my girlfriends, and that's my secret weapon. So my
Mm.
very best friend is actually I have all my besties, almost all my best girlfriends are in the company. and they're leaders as well. We all started out, 20 something years old, you know, just wild eyed and bushy tailed and just trying to, sit down and get our work done that day. And throughout the years, the 30 years that we've been at the company, we've been able to be sounding boards for each other, and just so important because there have been times that I wanted to give up, but they were, if I'm down, they're up at the time. They can speak wisdom into me and they can help me to think through the situation that I'm going through. And then there's times when they're down and they call me and they're in tears and they're, I just don't know what they want from me and blah, blah, this and that and the other. And we're able to talk through that thing. Sometimes we vent together, but then, you know, ultimately we're pouring into one another. You can do this, girl. You know, all you got to do is do such and such a thing. I mean, there's been some late nights where we, walked each other through, okay, this is the process. You know, this is how you do, this and that. Because to be honest with you, I still got a little bit of that thick-headedness in me. I don't always get stuff, when they're rolling out new workflows and they're rolling out a new system. I'm not one of the ones that get it first. I have to go through the class sometimes twice or three times before I get it. But Joseph, I always say I'm gonna go through it with my employees because they'll take the leaders through it first, and
Hmm.
then I'm like, I'll go through it with my employees too to make sure they're getting it. But I'm actually trying to get it again. You know what I'm saying? So just my friends, my husband, my mother, my children, they will tell you. They'll keep you on the straight and narrow too sometimes. And then, I have the Lord. So I just have the whole package. And then our women's ministry at church, our pastor will say something in his message that's very timely. If I'm going through something or I have a big decision to make, God is just awesome, and he fits the whole puzzle together, and he takes all the pieces and he just brings it all together. So,
Yes, yes, and I love that your approach to overcoming challenging and challenges and adversity. That it's a complete package. You know, I got God obviously at the head, but then it's nice to know that being a married woman, that you have a spouse that, of course, I know he's a man of God, and he's there to provide that support. But then sometimes it's not the spouse that you want to talk to. You need that circle of friends, so you
hmm
have that circle of friends who encourage and lift you up. And I think what's special about that is the fact that these friends are people that you work with. So just in your describing what that circle is like, it also lets me know that, we don't have a situation where we're trying to outdo one another, or I'm trying to
hmm
step on you to elevate and all that kind of stuff. We're eager and excited about seeing all of us be successful, all of us
hmm
prosper, all of us benefit, all of us learn. And and because you don't always have those kind of situations in the
hmm
workspace, people are cutthroat trying to get an edge on you if they think you don't know something, trying to get you to level up or whatever. But you obviously have a circle that you don't have to worry about that. People who genuinely want to see one another successful and loving on each other. And then, as you said, even down to your kids, a lot of
hmm
times we don't think, about the fact that our kids are paying very close attention to us. They're monitoring what we're doing, and and they're taking in, the lessons and the values and the integrity and the character, and they can be that voice of reason that we need to hear, that to
hmm
remind us that everything's going to be all right.
Yeah.
Again, not by accident. It's just a
Mm-mm.
tribute to what you've poured into them. I know, just quick story, real quick. Like yesterday, my wife and I, we were at our marriage ministry, meeting yesterday, and one of the couples there talked about, we always have something, and they were like, well, we can't eat until 7:30. So we're like, well, why can't you? And they were like, well, we're fasting. We've been fasting for 3 days, and so we've been, foregoing eating from 7:30 to 7:30. And they explained to us that the reason why they were doing it was that their kids were the ones who actually reached out to them and said, "Hey, we've been praying on some things or whatever, and we'd like for you to join in fasting with us." You know, You can only imagine as parents, you got your kids trying to telling you that they're putting some things, bringing some things to God to pray on, and they want you to join them
Right.
to fast,
Yeah.
on that.
Awesome.
I thought that was so awesome and so
Oh
powerful.
yeah.
How could you say no?
Right.
When your
Exactly.
kids are telling you that. It's usually the other
Mm-hmm.
way around. You're trying to convince your kids to do some of this stuff. Now
Mm-hmm.
your kids are taking that lead. So again, as shocking as that was for them, is just a testament, just like what we talked about with your story about your kids are paying attention.
Oh yeah.
They may not always act like they hear what you say. We
Mm-hmm.
know how that is.
Yeah.
We've been using the word thickhead. Sometimes our kids can be thick headed and they don't
Yes.
want to listen. They think they know everything. They
Mm-hmm.
grown. They got it all figured out.
All
But truth
figured
be
out.
told, they're listening,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll surprise us at the most unsuspecting moments to
Yeah.
remind you that everything that you've been trying to pour into them and say to them, it hasn't just been going through one ear and out the other, that they actually did grasp, some nuggets here and there along the way. So that's just beautiful to hear how your approach is. I like that approach that you take in dealing with challenging and difficult times. And it's clearly not an approach that's just, I only initiate it when something is wrong. This is something that you're doing. There's things that you're doing ongoing. So you don't even get thrown by surprise when you do have one of those stressful, overwhelming days. You've already been prepping for that moment. You don't have to get ready for it. You're already ready to be able to properly handle it. So that's a beautiful thing too. So
Well, there are
so
times now. Let me just say this. There have been times where I was, very stressed out, didn't know which way to turn, didn't have, you got your circle,
mhm.
none of that was working or whatever, still just stressed out or whatever. And I can tell you there's been two, maybe three times where when people say give it over to God, I literally gave it over to God. I remember, I'll give you one. This is going to be a quick story. I remember one time we were in Michigan. We were living in Michigan at the time. And I was just stressed out about, so many things that was on my plate at the time. And I had been sleepless for about two, maybe three nights, just tossing and turning, worrying about this thing. And one night I got up and I turned to the wall. Now, why I turned to the wall, I don't know. But I literally sat on the side of the bed and I turned to the wall. I started talking to the wall. And I said, God, now I'm worried about this and that and this and that. And I don't know how I'm going to make this, that, and the other work, but you do. So I'm going to go to bed and I'm going to go to sleep and I'm going to sleep all night because I know that you're going to work that thing out. The very next morning, I went into the office early because the kids were out of school and I didn't have to drop them off at school. And I said, well, I'm just going to go into the office early and get some work done. Just me and my boss. And I saw an email come over offering up, I need five managers to do, this, that, and the other, and so forth. It was another opportunity.
Mhm.
I started responding back, but then I was like, it's taking too long. She must be in the office. She's got to be in the office. So I ran to her office. I said, boss, I got to be one of those five because I got this, and this going on, and I need to be one of those five for that opportunity. And she said, okay, let's pin it. You got it. Because I mean, I went in there and I even told her, I prayed last night for this. And she said, what? I told her, I said, yeah, I've been tossing and turning about this situation and that situation. And here it is that you're presenting the same, resolution to what was going on for me. So I knew that was from God. I knew it was from God. Second time that happened was just recently. Last year, October, my son was in college and he was coming home from college. He's on the highway and a car spun out and out of control, spinning around and started coming back toward my son and in a head-on collision on the highway and tore the whole thing up, tore his car up and everything, but he didn't get hurt. He, the car got totaled because he was able to, to angle the car to the side or whatever, but it messed his car up. And it was at a time when both boys was in college. You know, we make too much to get any financial aid. They got their scholarships from athletics, but it doesn't pay everything. So we were like, we got money coming out left and right for two boys to be in college. Okay, the the car, we got some money for it, of course, but we didn't get enough to buy a whole new car, the same level of car that we had before. And so I told my son, well, you're just going to have to be without a car for a little while. And he had been talking to us anyway about when I get older, I'm going to get this kind of car and it's going to make this kind of noise. It's going to have a sunroof. It's going to have a backup camera. It's going to have this, that, and all these things that he wanted in a car. Okay, so his car is torn up. And I told him, I said, in the spring, we'll get you a new car. We just got to hold this money right now and then we'll have enough to get you a car. So I'm looking and trying to see, what the cars are costing and everything. And I'm like all night long for about a week trying to figure out how to get this boy another car because I started seeing that he was, kind of getting down about not having a car, couldn't get out, that type of thing. So, um, God told me, I was on my phone, Joseph, I heard him like as if I'm hearing this dog barking back here. I'm on the phone looking for a car, and God said, don't you look for another car. I'm going to give you a car. It's going to be everything that he wants. Stop. It's going to be everything he wants. It's going to have all these features, and you're going to pay half of the value of the car. So that was on a Tuesday night. I got off of the phone. I no longer looked for a car. I went to sleep. Okay, that was Tuesday night. On Saturday, my son called me. I was out. He called me and he said, Mom, such and such is selling his car because he's upgrading the car. Now the parents, these parents around here got some money. I ain't got no money, but these folk got money. The same car, except it's a younger version of the same car. Now this car
Hmm.
is decent. Like there's nothing wrong with this car. I was like, that car? They're selling that car? And so he said, yeah, they're gonna trade it in. And the money that they're trading in, I said, that's the money that we have from the insurance. And I said, well, why don't you just sell it to me instead of trading it into the dealership? It's the same thing. So the child went and talked to his parent. The mom said, sure. They went back down to the dealership and said, I need my car back, you know. And so they took our money, and put on to the car, whatever. My son got everything he wanted in the car. That whole zoom zoom noise that the cars make, like a V, whatever it is, sunroof, this, that, and the other, and so forth. I mean, clean, nice sport car, and it was half the value of what that car was
Wow.
worth. And God had told me that, and I had told him like the next day what God told me, and he didn't. He said he believed me, but he didn't believe me. And when he told
Hmm.
me, I was so calm. He said, Mom, do you hear what I'm saying? I said, yeah, man, I hear what you're saying, but did you hear what I said on Wednesday when
Right.
I told you that God was going to supply this to you, that he told me that he was going to supply this? And you know what, Joseph? He was like, he had this look on his face like, I think that was his first God moment.
Mm.
I think that was his first real deep God moment as a 21-year-old. And I think that really, because after that, he started reading the Bible a lot. He started, just really cleaning up himself, and really improving in some of his behaviors and all of that. I think that was his first God moment. And he saw that God provided and that he promised.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. And I'm saying wow because it's something to celebrate, but I also, downplay the wow in the sense of I'm not surprised because that's
Hmm.
again, that's who God is. That is the what, I refer to in my book as a blessings in the streets moment. That's
Hmm.
what that is.
Yeah.
Moments like that That wasn't supposed to happen. It wasn't
Mhm.
supposed. How does that happen? You just so happen you get the car exactly like you want, and then some. Oh, and pay half the price for it. You
Right.
know, that's just it. Just worked out that way. And again, from a worldly perspective, people in the world will say, "Oh, that just you just a lucky person. That's just
Mhm.
how lucky." You know, no, that is God
It
being
is.
God all by himself. He spoke to you first because he knew you were trying to search and find. And he's saying, look, quit trying to do my job.
Right.
I know your son needs a car. All you needed to do was
Mhm.
tell me my son needs a car and then let it go and let me do what I do. And in the appropriate moment, at the appropriate time, I'm going to make a pathway for that car to happen. And the
Mhm.
moment that you did that, you're no longer going looking here, searching here, digging, stressing yourself out because I want to get him a car. I want him to have. God said, okay,
Mhm.
anytime you're done, you ready to turn this over to me? And as soon as you
Mhm.
did that, then now you begin to see the
Yep.
blessings manifest themselves. And that's just that's a lesson in our walk with Christ that we have to, even as believers, we have to learn more and more to trust, to believe, to turn it over to him and just let him do it in his perfect way and in his perfect timing. Don't be patient. You know, quit trying to rush the process, because when we do that, we either gonna mess something up or we'll end up getting something, but in that situation we might end up settling for something that
Mhm.
we could have gotten so much more had we just, instead of trying to do it our way, allow him to do it
Mhm.
his way, and trusting and believing that he would, wouldn't let us down. Because again, as I say all the time, last time I checked, he's undefeated in everything that he does, everything that he's touched, he's a part of. You
Mhm.
know, I got a bunch of L's on my side.
Mhm.
He has none.
Yeah.
So who
Exactly.
better to tap into, who better to lean into in that scenario? So that's
Absolutely.
that's that's beautiful, beautiful stories there. Um, so Cheryl, if you had a chance, as you reflect back on all the life experiences, life lessons, and things of that nature, I mean, all the way back to childhood, being a kid, reading, not having a lot financially going on. Maybe at one point in time feeling like, I would not amount to anything, because of my struggles, because of my challenges. If you had a chance to speak to the younger Cheryl, or perhaps somebody like her who's gone through similar experiences, who people have been in somebody's ear telling them that they weren't going to be anything, that they've been made to feel that they were insignificant, that there was no pathway for them to experience greatness and abundance and a happy and a joyful life. If you could speak to that younger Cheryl or somebody like her right now, and offer up some words of encouragement, some insight as to the mindset that should be had, what would be those words of encouragement that you would have to share?
First, I would say, to believe in God and to get into His Word. Um, Tune up your faith if that's a thing. Just make sure that you are really dependent on Him and not your own way. And just get in His Word and understand what his commands are and understand his ways. And there's just so many verses in the Bible, even talking about finances. There's more verses on finances in the Bible, and how to handle money, than there is about prayer. Okay, so just understanding those things, he will guide you through life. So that's first. Second of all, get a coach, a mentor, somebody that you can be accountable to, that could hold you accountable, that you can be authentic with, that has your best interests at heart. Someone who, they don't have to be making six figures, and, the VPO, or the VP of this organization or whatever. Just a person that can pour wisdom into you, as a person, to help you when you can't believe. Like, maybe you go through periods of time. I've gone through periods of time when I didn't believe in myself again, and my friends and my husband, you know family members, they poured into me. So so find a mentor, somebody that you can be authentic with. and raw, and let them know what you're going through, and talk to them, you know. The other thing is you have to surround yourself with like-minded people, people that's going somewhere, that are positive, that are cheering for one another. Um, these are things that I've, found in life to, help me to get to where I am right now, and without my circle, I don't know where I would be. Without my siblings and my friends, I don't know where I would be in life, you know, because they've held me up when I needed to be held up. Um, read, okay? Leaders are readers. So whatever area you're in, whatever industry you in, if you're um, if you want to do better about your finances personally, if you want to have a better marriage, if you want to be a better parent, things of that nature, you got to read. One thing that Malcolm X said is, if you want to hide something from black people, put it in a book. And he wasn't saying that to be a put down, but he was just saying that we need to do a better job about reading. And unless we, don't want to move forward in life, don't read then, you know, because you can find great books on, I mean, you can see this bookshelf behind me. I've read almost every one of them books. Almost all those books I read in my 20s and my 30s, uh, in my 40s. I started tapering off a little bit, my late 40s and my 50s, um, in reading or whatever. But there are so many great books out there. Millionaire Next Door talks to you about, how to win friends and influence people, personality process. I mean, just, a myriad of different books that can help you to better yourself. Books on leadership, spiritual books, whatever. And so that would be the other thing that I would, very much um, encourage people to do. So, getting in your word, and building your faith in God, and finding you a good mentor or coach that can pour into you. Sur- um, Surrounding yourself with people that are positive, a life group at church, the marriage ministry, something, a group of people that can hold you up, and then reading, very important.
Love
And
that.
one thing that I'm learning as almost 56 years old, I'm almost 56 this year, and I'm just learning this, is to really care for myself. Okay?
Mm,
Find that time to do something to invest in you, to refresh yourself, to give yourself some joy, and give yourself some downtime. I'm just learning that. I am just learning it. And it's starting to feel real good. Now I'm thinking about retirement.
hey.
I can't wait till I retire because that's all I talk about, because it's starting to feel real good. But yeah, those would be that would be the advice that I have. And as you grow and mature, at this stage, what I'm doing is I'm pouring into younger people. I have a group of young adults that I pour into. With my family and everything, and we're always got some quote that we're talking about or something like that. And my husband and I are getting ready to put together like a little Zoom call that we're going to have with this young adult group, and we're going to take different topics and start helping them to navigate through these 18 to 27-year-old years, 30 to 30-year-old years and everything, and to help them with their finances and learn how to, navigate the system and everything. So that's what we're doing. Giving back. We're trying to give back.
Love that. Love that. Definitely sound like so anybody hearing what Cheryl has to say, you better grab hold of all of those nuggets, because we can definitely apply that accordingly and instantaneously. Like right
Mm-hmm.
now, you can begin
Mm-hmm.
to tap into these things. These are not things that you have to, or I got to worry about. I got to get some money together to do it or anything like that. It's about just taking the time to commit. And as I'm saying that for my audience, as I shared earlier at the top of the show, I expected to be blessed and been blessed as a result of, Cheryl sharing what she's sharing, dropping some nuggets. So you're never too old to learn. Always want to keep your mind open and to be able to receive that wisdom as she spoke to, and figuring out ways to do better in your walk, in your ways, so that you can be a better version of yourself, to be able to be used by God accordingly, to be a
Mm-hmm.
blessing to other people. So very good stuff that you're sharing there. Cheryl, it has been an awesome pleasure of having you on the show this evening. Again, we've been encouraged, we've been inspired, we've been uplifted, and most importantly, we've been blessed by your stories, your transparency, your authentic way in sharing. It is certainly appreciated, and anytime you want to come back on the show, you are welcome to do so. Because we could spend hours talking just about and just our way of leaning into God and that what that relationship means, and just how magnificent He's been, and
Yes.
opportunities that He's provided and ways that He's made. So just really powerful stuff. But before I let you go, as is customary here on the Blessings in the Streets podcast, we like to take an opportunity to celebrate, to acknowledge, to love on you. If you have any exciting news, personal business that is either happening right now, just recently happened, or coming down the pike to be happening, please share that with us at this time. So again, we can celebrate that and acknowledge it.
Well, I want to say this is something I'm very proud about. There is a women's magazine, and it's called Behind Her Brand. Okay, and this comes out once a quarter, and um, actually, it comes out every other month. Actually, so in the September and October edition of September October of 2023, I was featured in this magazine. And it's a beautiful magazine. And what this magazine does, and that's me, there I am.
All right, all
And
right.
it's a 6-page spread. And it gave me an opportunity to, share some of the same things that we've been talking about here. I was able to share that in the magazine here, but I was invited to be a part of that magazine, and just so excited about it, just grateful. I'm thankful for the opportunity, and like you said, little black girl from the inner city of Chicago on the south side, little thick-head girl that couldn't read, couldn't get those grades, and for God to have brought me from there to here, I'm just humbled and grateful. Um, and I just can't give him enough praise and credit for the things that he's doing through me. And I plan to come back and share anytime you want to have me on the show. Let me know whatever the topic is. We can, vet through there. Hopefully, I'll have my dog put away in the
No,
back, because this dog never barks. These dogs, they never bark. You come in the house and they're just like, "Come on in," no problem. But today
Mm-mm-mm.
I'm on the show and they're just barking. So, but yeah,
So you
I'm just grateful for the things that God has done and allowed me to achieve in my life. So
is
thanks for
awesome.
asking. Thanks for having me.
Well, absolutely. So again, congratulations on the feature that you had in the magazine. Congratulations on what will be in another year, 25 years of marriage. That's definitely something to celebrate.
hmm 30
Beautiful
years
couple that
next
you
year
are.
with my
30
company.
years on the job, closer to that retirement moment. Again, another accolade to celebrate. So we don't take any of those things lightly, and just thankful, of course, and celebrate the fact that you understood the assignment of being in relationship with God, and leaning into that and trusting in that and believing in that. That in itself is a power move that needs to be celebrated, and we encourage others to do the same if they haven't made that decision, because it'll definitely be the best decision that you will ever make. So,
Amen.
so with that said, if you've enjoyed the content that we've, the way that we do things here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, please subscribe, please share, please comment, please like, because this is what it's all about. We want to encourage, we want to uplift, we want to inspire, we want to be transparent in the sharing of our stories, our journeys, our challenges in life, with the hopes of touching you in your respective areas of life, hoping that there's something about what we've shared, something about what we've said that you can draw from, that you can pull from, that will uplift you, that will give you some hope and some belief. Just because you go through storms and challenges in life, as we all do, it doesn't mean that that's the end of your story. It's just a part of the process, it's a part of the journey. You have to go through it. It's a reason for it. It may not feel good, it may not make sense, but trust and believe there's a purpose for it. God makes no mistakes. And what you have to realize is that if you're able to withstand that storm by staying in prayer, staying in God's word, staying in proximity with him, in that relationship with him, the blessings will be, you will lose count of not
Yes.
only blessings upon you in your life, but again, the way God will be able to use you to be a blessing to other people. And it's just an awesome and magnificent thing. So that's why, we don't take lightly about that relationship with God, not telling you something that we heard, telling you something that we know from personal experience. And so we want the same for you. We want that same joy, that same happiness, that same we want that for everybody that's tuning in, and for those of your friends and your family and otherwise, Lord. So if we have an opportunity to extend that message through this platform and other platforms, we want to take that. We don't want to take that opportunity for granted, and we want to be able to be all that and then some to you in hopes of, again, of encouraging and uplifting and inspiring. So remember, here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is the place where your story is your glory, where your relationships and your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts. Thank you so much for tuning in. It has been so great to have you aboard and have our special guest tonight on board. And until next time, you keep fighting that good fight. You keep persevering. You keep learning and opening yourself up to all that God has for you. He loves us unconditionally. He wants nothing but the best for you. Keep him at the head of your life. I promise you, it will be the best decision you ever make. Regret it. He's a perfect God. He's a loving God. He's an awesome God. And again, he just wants the best for us. And he's imparted
Yes.
in each and every one of us special skill sets, special gifts that are uniquely intended for you to be the best that you can be in sharing and pouring into this world. So don't take that lightly. Don't take it for granted. Um, God's got your back. Just trust and keep your faith in him. And again, he hear you wrong. So I look forward to seeing you next time on our next show. And until then, you take care of yourselves. Thank you for tuning in. See you next time.